Hancock. Tonight, Flo is presenting her fourth speech. Her topic is one of her favorites, being outdoors. She is doing project number 4 from the Competent Communicator Manual. How to say it. This is a 5 to 7 minute speech. Her general purpose is to write for the ear, focusing the use of language. Tonight, Flo's topic is AAA, Amazing Autumn Adventures. So let's welcome Flo Barbara Hancock with AAA, Amazing Autumn Adventures.
How many of you have ever been in a place or situation that made you really feel inspired or wonderful? Sometimes, someplace, can be inside or outside. One of my times was an autumn, some years ago. It was a crisp autumn afternoon. I was driving with my 2 daughters up from Florida into the Appalachian Mountains. It was early October, so the leaves had started turning. And as we rose into the foothills, I was looking at these gorgeous rolling hills, different colors at every turn. It became harder and harder to keep my eyes on the road, and there were hairpin turns. But it was so beautiful. Every vista was different than the one before. That was where my focus was, but my girls were ready to get there. Mommy, when are we going to get to the campground? Pretty soon. And soon enough we did. We pulled into the campground, assured of a space, because I had reserved one, and as soon as I parked the car, they were jumping out, running over to the playground that was nearby. They were ready to let go of some of that cooped up energy. They'd been in the car too many hours, and I was glad to see them go play. So I started getting the stuff out of the car, the ground cover, the tent, the stakes, and I started to get out the picnic stuff and put this all out together, and I saw this sign. It said, bears. And I'm like, oh yeah, the AAA guidebook had helped us plan this trip. And it did say something about bears. I decided I'd better go over and really find out what this sign had to say. Well, it wasn't too awful. It wasn't like they couldn't play over at the playground. It did say you had to be careful if you were walking after dark. It said to make noise and talk loud or sing when you were hiking. And along with the other things, it said, don't take out food until you're ready to eat it. Okay, I guess that picnic basket's going back in the car, and I'm shutting the car until we're ready for dinner. So, pitched the tent, and then I went and gathered up the girls, because it wasn't quite dusk yet. So I said, okay, we can go for a little walk before we start dinner. So I took him and we went up on a nice, there was a kind of a circular trail up around the campground. It was a nice, easy trail. It was a good thing for the end of the day. And we were scuffing our feet in all those piles of colorful leaves, which if you haven't seen them, you can only imagine, but the way they crunch and crinkle, it's just so wonderful. It's one of my very favorite sounds. And we circled the campground and came on back to the tent and made our fire in the appointed little place and had our supper. It was pretty easy to go to sleep because, although they were excited, we had gotten up really early to make the trip in one day. Next morning, bright and early, it's cooler, crisper than it was the night before. We bundled up and got out our things for breakfast. We could smell the bacon on somebody else's fire. Like, oh man, that aroma was so tantalizing, but yeah, our bacon. We had things like yogurt and granola bars, good trail food. So we got out, we ate our breakfast, and then they put on their little packs, and I got my pack, because this was just going to be a day hike. It wasn't a big deal. So we started trudging up the trail. They had picked out, of course, they're little girls, you know, like 5 and 7. waterfalls. You know, it's all about the waterfall. We don't have many in Florida. They're Florida girls, all about the waterfalls. So we headed up, and there were roots in the trail, and you know, they did pretty good with it, but their little legs were tired. I mean, when you've been raised a Florida flatlander, any elevation more than a sand dune is a big deal. So we'd stop, look, and there were pretty things to look at. There were squirrels, there were chipmunks, lots of little wildlife to see. We had our snacks, we had our drinks, we'd get up and go a little more. And we heard this rushing brook. We knew there was a brook somewhere, but we hadn't seen it. It was getting louder, and it was getting louder. Finally, at one point in a bend in the road, there it was. Right there, rushing, tumbling down this mountain. It was just having such a joyful time, splashing over the rocks. It was delightful. And the afternoon was warm now, and it was sunny, so rolled up the pants legs and waded in and picked up some of those pretty colored, sparkling stones. They're smooth, they're rounded, and in the water they're all different colors. So of course, everybody put a few in their pockets. So we go on up, up, and the stream was coming from the waterfall. So eventually, we made it up to the waterfall. It was a beautiful, long cascade of water splashing into a pool at the bottom, and there were grassy areas there. So, having reached our goal, what did we do? We pulled out our lunches. And we sat there for about an hour enjoying the beauty of that moment and the yumminess of food that we were really hungry to have. And then it was time to start back down. Well, it was all mostly downhill. There was literally and figuratively, about halfway down, I'm hearing, "Mommy, the roots." Little was, "Mommy, carry me." Well, even a skinny 5-year-old doesn't get carried very far, let me tell you. But we eventually made it down the trail, and the welcome sight of the tent back in the campground. We had survived the day, cool wildlife, no bears. So we thought, we're seasoned hikers now. And a good night's sleep from all that exercise, and the next morning, bright and early, we're ready to do it all over again. And we don't know if on day 2, we're gonna see a bear or not. But the beauty of that time together in the outdoors was really magical. And in our daily lives, sometimes we don't take time to seek out those fun things and special places that really bring us joy and make us thankful. So whether it's family and Thanksgiving, whatever it is, find those moments.